Welcome back to the diary room, Blaze. It's
Thank you, thank you.
been a lot going on since we last spoke, so let's get into it.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so Brandy's exit week. How has that been treating you?
Well, in the broad sense of the week overall, it's kind of been a quiet week in all honesty. It's like quiet, but like had its explosive moments, I guess. And that may or may not have been initiated by me. I might have caused some problems on purpose. But the whole week kind of felt mostly quiet, but there was obviously the big explosion with the alliance situation. So that was kind of a whole thing. And really, what I'm trying to do this week, in terms of my own perspective, is trying to build connections and do what I can. Because Jordan being HOH, I was like, I'm safe. And plus, it's not like a point in the game where I'm worried yet. So I'm more just trying to set up stuff for later. So when it comes to this, I'm kind of like, okay, what relationships could I set up? And to me, it was like one person I wanted to put a little bit more investment into was Livy. So the whole drama, because I have to speak on it, because it was probably the most exciting moment of this cycle, which is probably saying a lot as is. But
Please.
but essentially, I don't know if I have to recap fully for the spectators, but Livy and Brandy had a little moment where they had a little fight, and by little I mean the whole house knows. Um, so just brief recap is that there was an alliance made between all the girls, and well, I can tell the full story here because I think I'm the one that may have caused the problem. Brandy told me about this, and previously I would have probably not leaked it to Livy immediately, but because of certain instances that have happened, Brandy was completely willing to throw out my name to save herself and didn't tell me about anything that was going on or like update me or like at least let me know that she's doing that to some extent. And I get it, like she was in trouble and everything, but it kind of showed me like how much she valued me when she was willing to do that. So that kind of led to me valuing her less as an ally. So I kind of spilled when I was told about this alliance to Livy. And I'm guessing by the timing of things, I was the first one to tell Livy that Brandy was leaking it. And Livy was not happy. The best part was I was in classes during that time, so I was only kind of able to come in and out. So basically, I got to see the before and then the after. So Livy got really upset, and someone else confirmed. I don't know who that was, but somebody else did. And yeah, the rest is kind of history. And I came back and I heard about the whole incident and people yelling, screaming, crying, throwing up. And then whole thing with Livy leaving the alliance too. It was just kind of a mess. And I'm happy to have made at least a little bit of excitement. Um, but yeah, overall, that was kind of the most exciting thing that happened this week. So in terms of treating me this week, that was my entertainment. That's how it was treating me. Otherwise, I mean, Brandy's exit as a whole, I hope she's doing okay. Of course, when somebody walks, I do feel bad, but it was inevitable that she was probably going to get evicted either way. She probably knew that too.
Mhm.
Um, so I do feel bad for her, but it was just going to happen one way or another at the same time. Hope she's okay. But it's good for me because, I mean, it's not like super beneficial or anything for me, but Brandy was one of the few people that I didn't have an alliance with, so it didn't hurt me at all. And she was willing to throw out my name, so that was another thing. So just a small little like win, not big, just kind of like, all right, not the worst thing that could have happened. And yeah, I think that's the overall thoughts. That's kind of like the big things that I remember happening.
Please. Okay, so that explains that. So, new cycle starting. So, yeah, kind of like in your diary room. Will you be gunning for this HOH?
Okay, so for me, no. that would be the worst decision I feel like I could make right now. And I've let some people know that, like, hey, I don't think I can win HOH right now. Because in all honesty, I'm aligned with most of the house. I think literally everybody but Crow. So winning HOH is just absolutely detrimental to my game. Do I have people I value more? Obviously. But I don't want to be the one to draw those lines. Those can be other people. I am not worried about this week by any means. I think people that are relatively inactive are going up. I expect the physical team to get a little bit more of a target. So maybe Crow Val kind of in trouble upcoming. I would obviously prefer Crow going for reasons that is probably, well, obvious. But because of all that, it's just like I don't need to win this HOH. There's no reason for me to. It's just going to get messy if I did. And I just got to kind of hope that it works out. Um, But let's just say in the odd case I did win, which I will not be trying to at all, I will be throwing. But let's say something crazy happens. If I had to nominate people to kind of get like a gist of where I'm at here, Crow would go up 100%. I have been telling people that I am not connected with Crow. And like Aiden in particular will talk to me and be like, oh, but he's so sweet. Oh, I'm connected to him. So like, I don't know. And I'm like, no, it's boring. We are talking about work. We have not changed the subject for 3 days. I don't care about talking for work anymore. Please just tell me about French fries or something. That would be so much more interesting. I just, the conversations are just like there's no substance and we don't talk as a theme. He's told me that I'm his best connection on the social side, but like, I don't have any proof on that because A, no alliances, and B, I just don't know where his head is at in the broad sense, I feel like. So I don't know. It's just like I'm not there. So Crow would obviously go up for those reasons. And then if I had to put somebody else up, I don't know. It'd probably be looking at the alliances. I think the easiest person for me to put up would be Sammy, because I only have one alliance. I don't think it's a strong one. I would also consider MJ, but we're in two, so I don't want to like cause any waves in that boat just yet. Let somebody else cause that. But yeah, that's kind of like my headspace. I really want like my best case scenario would be Crow going. So if like nominations were to happen, that's like where my headspace is. That would be like the best case scenario for me. But I'm not at all going for it. So, you know.
All right, fair enough. So, who would you be looking at as ideal people to win at the HOH for you?
Um so a total of maybe 11 out of the 12 options would be great for me. And I don't know if that's math, but it's me saying everybody but Crow, basically. I don't know if Crow would nominate me, but there's just no guarantee because he's not in alliance with me. So if anybody but Crow wins, I'm cool. I think anybody that would be willing to put up Crow would be my ideal win, but I really don't think anybody would do any harm to me. I think maybe to throw some people out there. I don't want Aiden to win for that reason because I don't know if he'd put a Crow. Mira, Shanks, I don't think he's gonna try and win though. Brian would probably be fine. Like those kind of energies. But really I think I'm pretty good in most HOHs, so I don't have a true preference in who wins. Just anybody but Crow. And I don't mean to make this the Crow thing, because I don't mean to like go into my own habits or anything of like, oh, he's sweet and oh, and this and that. Because I said that, I hate that. And it's kind of true because I feel like I have to tell people that, but he is sweet and stuff. So like no ill like intention, but also like ill intention. I just can't. He's just not connected to me, frankly. So that's my only like liability at this point.
Fair enough. Um, so you talk about being very, feeling very well connected in the house. So I kind of want to hear what you're thinking as far as like, how did the house dynamics look for you right now?
The house dynamics for me, I feel like first and foremost, I need to let a couple weeks progress before I can see the best lines here. Because I think the problem with this house right now is that they're kind of like half and half. There's a lot of people who are not well connected, but the people that are connected are connected. Like, to kind of give you a gist, I think people like Crow, Sammy, MJ, Val, they're not super connected with most of the house. So there's not really any lines with them. It's just kind of like I think they're in danger of being like eventually put up for those reasons. Even Livy, frankly. But the problem with that is it means that I can't really see where the lines are between people like Mira, Jordan, Shanks, Ryan. Like it's hard to tell what they're going to do at this phase in the game because I think there's too much interconnectedness between like people that are more active because of that. And I don't think any of us are going for each other at this point in time. But the ultimate thing that I have to look for when I like look further into the game is I need to know like what they're thinking, like what do they want to do when the game does narrow down. So right now all I can do is just like try and keep my connections up with those people so that they don't try and target me later, see me as a valuable ally at least. Um, so I think a lot of the dynamics, if I had to state them, is that there's a lot of probably interconnected alliances. There's probably some I don't even know myself. But looking at the board here, I think Mira, Aiden, Shinx, I think them three are very similar in the fact that I think that they have a lot of connections everywhere. I think I have more tabs on Shinx than I do the other two. I don't see a world where Aiden and Mira don't have at least one more alliance that I don't know about. So I don't think they're going to go out of their way to harm me by any means, but I do think they have other connections outside of me because I think they're social players. Aiden and I did talk to recently, and I got a leaked alliance of Michael, Jordan, who else was it? Ryan and Aiden. So I did get to know about that, which makes me feel better with Aiden and lets me know like he's willing to tell me that kind of stuff. But to my point, there's probably other alliances out there. And when it comes to things like that, it's like, why didn't Jordan or Ryan tell me or Michael? So, you know, I need to let the game progress to see that kind of stuff. Um, which, speaking of which, I think Ryan and Michael are kind of like my strategic liabilities. Like, I think their thinking is something I'm not really privy to myself. By which I'm okay. Goodness. Let me close my door because my dog's going feral. One sec.
No problem.
Anyways, that disturbing interruption. Oh, okay. What I mean by that is kind of like Ryan and Michael are, I think they're trying to put their pieces into place. Like Michael, for instance, I think he has a lot of alliances, something me and Aiden talked about. I think he's trying to get connected with everyone, but unlike me, I think it's more like purposeful. He wants to get connected with everybody, which makes him more of a liability because it means that he has like everybody to connect with. So it means like he has all his eggs in like every basket, not in one. And that's kind of scary because it means like he could go to anybody. Ryan for me, I think Ryan's the biggest blind spot in my game right now because I think he has a lot of alliances he's not telling me about, at least one that I know of, because he is a very social player and he gets along with a lot of people, I think. So I think there's got to be at least a couple more. And I think if anybody's like a blind spot for me in the future, it's him. Um, I've talked about most of the others. I think Livy's kind of like in the twilight zone. She's like inactive for me, but I do see her as a possibly valuable ally. But I just don't know because I know that people are looking to her as a possible nominee. Malik is a similar case. I think Malik's actually an interesting case because I think he has very strong connections with the select few people. And I think those select few people are very important people, like Shinx. I think Shinx and Malik are very close. And that's not like, I don't think Malik's connections are very like everybody has connections with him. So he's connected with the right people, but he's not like the most social player. So he's kind of like I could see him being in the middle game or like in game as somebody that's more like under the radar and has like the important connections kind of deal. But that's just kind of like a general read of everybody, I think. I think as more cycles progress, I'll get to see more specifics about like who people's allegiances are truly to. But at this point in the game, it's kind of hard to read, like I said, because half of the house is possible targets because they're relatively inactive, and the other half is like really social and they have a lot of connections. So it's hard to tell where their head is at. And I don't think they're thinking that far into the game of like who they're going to target until we actually start getting there. So until then, I can't really know exactly what they're thinking because I need to see like actual actions and talk that is showing that.
All right, fair enough. So that would be my last question would just be about obviously, congratulations for having the top GPA. Unfortunately, since Miss Jordan,
Wow.
we didn't get
Yes.
but how how was that for you? And kind of now that you know a bit about it, how are you looking for like if you're gunning for it again or how are you feeling?
Okay, so I the power first and foremost. I was very excited. What can I say? I'm amazing. I was very happy to get it because it meant that I had more information than other people do. I knew what the power was. But at the same time, I think I'm a very visible social player. So for me, I didn't want to tell anybody because I didn't want any possibility that I had it, like any like leaking. I didn't want to have a possibility of that happening. So I did not tell anybody that I had this. And luckily for me, people like Sammy and Shanks are like people that are possible like suspects for getting it for their reasons. So let me kind of fly under the radar, which is what I wanted to do. I did not want people to know that I possibly had the power because I didn't want any future target on my back. And I kind of talked a lot about it when I actually got the power of kind of like what my thinking was. First and foremost, the way I'm assuming it's going to work is when somebody takes a certain power, it gets blocked for the next person. So, for example, I took the block of vote power. I don't think that's going to be available to whoever gets it next. So, I'm just assuming the way that works. I can't know. I kind of want to get it next cycle just to find out that fact. The only danger in that is if I'm seen at the top again, it is a possible liability, but I think I'm okay with it. I would rather have the power and know. And week 3 tends to get crazy, so I definitely want it. Um, but first and foremost, let me talk about this cycle, obviously, because I had it. Unfortunately, as you said, I lost it because the vote did not go through. And that's okay. I don't think anything impactful was going to happen with it. If anything, my ultimate strategy here was first and foremost, I wanted the block of vote power because in the third week, the votes can really matter. So I didn't want that to be a possible problem in the week. I think that was like out of the options I had to keep myself more under the radar with the power, that was the best one. I would have also liked to take the immunity away, but the problem with that is first off, it could have been used on me. And second off, with the way um, like this power worked and how me wanting to be under the radar, I thought the immunity would be kind of hard because I think it could be very telling. Um, so I narrowed it down to the whole HOH and Bakugo because both were very like you could remain very anonymous with those. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to cause like some confusion about why somebody would have been like had their vote blocked. So I wanted to kind of choose somebody random. Um, but I was really trying to think because I wanted to ultimately frame Shinx or Sammy. So I didn't want to do Mira because I thought it's kind of like thinking ahead. If I were Sammy and I didn't want people to know, I would never use the power on Mira because then it's probably very obvious given the whole drama there. So it's like those little things I was trying to think about, and I'm actually a little bit glad I didn't have to go that far and think about all those little details. Because I made a wheel decide. And I was about to just use that and cause the most havoc by whoever it landed on. Because what's better to cause havoc than literally not even knowing yourself who you're going to use it on? And if it did, it was actually going to be Malik who I was going to use it on. My only hesitation with that was because Shanks and Malik are so close. Will people kind of know that and be like, huh? But regardless, that's kind of where my headspace was at that point. I was like, hey, I mean, not a bad land for the wheel. So I was gonna roll with it. But I don't have to think about it. So in terms of this cycle, my ultimate strategy was all that. It was just to kind of like let other people be suspects, let other people deal with that, and then like kind of remain under the radar about having it and try and take out a power that could be problematic in the future. And now I'm hoping I get the power for the next cycle because, like I said, week 3 tends to sometimes get a little crazy. And that's just kind of like from previous experience because you've given enough time, usually with people, to get a sense of like who's a threat. And if the wrong person wins HOH, they tend to act on that. Um, so it can be a scary week in that instance. I literally had to see it in my last org, so maybe that's just trauma speaking, but I don't know. Um, so I want to win it because I want to see if I can influence the cycle just in case. Um, I'm also hoping to get to learn if the powers go away if you choose it. So because information is power ultimately to know like what happens. Um, so between assuming that happens, I know that the options are immunity, block a HOH winner, and there was one more that I need to scroll back on. Um, oh, a veto ticket, basically. Choose somebody. So hopefully I can get it. And I don't know if I want to do it. That's a problem for Laramie. We'll see if I win it first. But ultimately, I do want to go for it. I do want to try and get it again, just so I can like see what happens. Kind of. It's kind of like it's research, you know, like the scientific process or something, or the method, same thing. So I don't know. That's kind of like a lot of rambling because I think it's a lot of like in the airs because it depends how the cycle goes, I feel like. So it's kind of hard to guess what power is going to be impactful until the cycle's actually in progress. Um, so I don't know. All I can do is like sit back, hope for the best, and see what happens. Kind of work on like just being adaptable and everything, just see what happens and work by that. So it's kind of my plan. I do want to win and then just kind of work with it as it goes. If I don't win, I don't win. If I win, we'll see.
All right, Blaze. Very insightful as always. That's all the questions that I have.
You know me, so smart, so wise. That's like always what people use to describe me in my
Please.
wildest dreams.
I'm sure. I'm sure.